right. So last night there was some arrest in the killing of Jazmine Barnes, and today we got some updates, some developments in it. Washington Post, AtlantaBlackStar.com, News1.com, they all have good articles dealing with this. The Washington Post has an article, "A family felt a Black child's killing was a hate crime. A family felt a Black child's killing was a hate crime. An arrest gave people a new direction. An arrest gave people a new direction." How's everybody doing on YouTube? Let me know if you can hear us okay on YouTube also. Okay, we're broadcasting on my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP, on YouTube as well. All right, so if we look at this article from the Washington Post, Texas authorities have charged a man in the fatal shooting of an African-American 7-year-old girl whose death captured national attention and sparked a manhunt for the killer. In a statement early Saturday, the Harris County Sheriff's Office announced that 20-year-old Eric Black Jr. Was charged with capital murder in Jazmine Barnes' death. He was identified as a suspect based on a tip, police said, adding that Eric Black Jr. later admitted he was involved in the shooting. So it appears he was not the shooter. He was driving the car that the shooter was in. They also have another suspect in custody as well that they suspect is the shooter. Now, investigators are chasing leads that could result in other suspects being charged, and police said they're working to verify information on a second individual in the shooting. Now, the break in the case comes 1 week after Jazmine was killed in Houston, Texas, while riding in a car with her three sisters and her mother. Her mother's name is LaPortia Washington. We know there was a huge rally yesterday on Saturday, January 5th, in support of the family and calling for those who were involved in the killing to be brought to justice. So a gunman opened fire on the vehicle about 7 a.m. on December 30th, 2018, injuring LaPortia Washington and fatally wounding Jazmine Barnes while causing glass to rain down on the girls. Police said in the statement that they do not think Jazmine's family was the intended target and that they may have been shot at, quote, as a result of mistaken identity, end quote, as a result of mistaken identity. Okay. Now, all evidence gathered so far in the Jazmine Barnes homicide case supports investigators' strong belief that she and her family were innocent victims. The police department tweeted on Sunday. Jazmine's death was publicized in part by the efforts of activist Shaun King, civil rights lawyer S. Lee Merritt, who represents the family, and numerous celebrities. Attorney S. Lee Merritt, who's also the attorney for the family of Botham Shem John there in Dallas, Texas, also. S. Lee Merritt and Shaun King offered a $100,000 reward for information leading to the suspect's arrest, and Shaun King has continuously tweeted updates in the case to his 1.1 million Twitter followers also. All right. So I saw a number of good articles dealing with this. AtlantaBlackStar.com had a good article. Also, ABC Channel 13, the local affiliate there in the Houston area, they have a good article, but they actually have an interview with Jazmine's mother. Okay, so we'll go to that in just a minute. Let's try to go to this clip here. This is from the local affiliate Channel 2 down in Houston, Texas. Okay, so just 1 second here. All right, let's get that queued. Okay, let's see. No, okay, we can't do that. Never mind. Okay, I see what it's doing. Okay, we'll fix this, and we'll come to that on the other side of the break. All right, so let's continue here. So many, including Esley Merritt, speculated that the crime was racially motivated based on early witness accounts of the suspect, who was described by authorities as a thin white man in his 30s or 40s. All right. And this was a sketch that was circulated by police. Quote, the family is still really grateful that it seems law enforcement has identified the shooter, end quote, said attorney Esley Merritt. He told the Washington Post on Sunday morning. Quote, however, all the information up until yesterday has been that the shooter was an older white male in a red truck that came from not only one of the victims, 15-year-old Alexis, but from an eyewitness nearby. Okay. He went on to say, quote, we had at least 4 independent witnesses who believed the shooter in this situation was a white male. Okay. To learn that it wasn't is disappointing, he said to learn that it wasn't is not disappointing, but it is surprising. Okay. Now, Harris County Sheriff Ed Gonzalez said, Eric Black Jr. Was named a suspect in the case thanks to a tip that came in to Sean King, civil rights activist Sean King, and journalist, who relayed it to the police department. Okay, Harris County Sheriff Ed Gonzalez said during a Sunday afternoon news conference that the department had received information on a second individual involved in the shooting, but he declined to further elaborate on the person's role or potential charges. All right. So what happened was, and in some of the coverage of this, I saw the actual video of the car. What happened was there was a red car. There's a red truck, I should say. There was a red truck speeding away from the scene. Okay. And there's a white man in the truck. So this is what they saw, but that doesn't mean that was the person who did the shooting. It's suspected that this person was fleeing because shots were fired. Okay, so as any person most likely would do, you hear shots being fired, you're going to run, you're going to flee. Okay, so CNN had an article also dealing with how the suspects were captured, because it came from a traffic stop. Okay. And one thing led to another. It came from a traffic stop. All right. So now police in their statement did not immediately identify Eric Black Jr. as the shooter. Attorney Esley Merritt identified 24-year-old Larry Woodruff as the second suspect in the case, though police have not named him. And even in some of the local news coverage that I saw, because I looked at ABC Channel 13, I looked at Channel 2 there in the Houston area, I looked at their local coverage of this case, and they named Larry Woodruff as the second suspect, is actually the potential shooter. All right. Now, Esley Merritt says he believes Larry Woodruff is also African-American. Now, Alexis Dilbert, who's Jazmine's Alexis Dilbert, who's Jazmine's 15-year-old sister, told ABC Channel 13 in Houston after the shooting that she saw the shooter's face. She said she saw the shooter's face. Washington told reporters that the shooter was a white man with blue eyes who was so skinny that he looked sick. Officials also released a video of a red pickup truck that they believed the shooter was driving. Okay. Now, Harris County Sheriff Ed Gonzalez also acknowledged discrepancies in the suspect's description, adding that darkness and trauma during the shooting may have impacted the witness's memories. Gonzalez said, quote, it went down very quickly when the gunfire erupted, end quote. You're talking about small children. They witnessed something very traumatic, and it's very likely the last thing they did see, indeed, was the red truck and the driver in that red truck. And that's what they remember last, end quote. In the article from CNN, because CNN has an article also dealing with this. And how's everybody doing on Facebook? And let me turn that down. Okay. So on YouTube. So those on YouTube, can you still hear me? Let me know. All right. So in the article from CNN, okay, they have an article that deals with, let me get the exact name of that article here, just a second. A missed turn signal leads to the arrest of a suspect in Jazmine Barnes killing. A missed turn signal leads to an arrest in Jazmine Barnes killing, okay? And that's an important one. It has a tweet. That article has a tweet from attorney Esley Merritt. And it's from about 3:29 a.m., okay, Sunday morning, about 3:29 a.m. Sunday morning. And we're going to go to that in just a minute. I'll pull that up here in just a second here. So this was a shot. And this is why I had to explain. Now, people have to understand, this is my 9th year doing radio. It'll be March 10th, 2019. It'll be 9 years exactly that I started the African History Network show. I ain't just start doing radio when I came to this radio station, okay? I brought a track record. I brought a huge body of work, something like 600 or 700 podcasted episodes already. When I started at this station, I had about 800,000 followers already on Facebook. Now it's 1 million. On our Facebook fan page, the African History Network, I had tens of thousands of followers on my YouTube channel. Okay, so I've been doing radio for a number of years. I've done terrestrial radio. I've done internet radio. I've done nationally syndicated radio, the Michael Imhotep show on the Empowerment Radio Network. Guest hosted the Roland Martin radio show numerous times. Guest hosted the Warren Ballantine show for 3 weeks on the Empowerment Radio Network. So having experience in radio, this is why when certain things happen and certain information comes out, right? This is why I don't jump on it right away and start drawing a conclusion and you don't have the evidence yet to come to that conclusion. This is why I say, look, we have to get more facts before we start making accusations. The same thing happened with the Botham Shem John case, right? Botham Shem John case down in Dallas, Texas. You have people right away saying, oh, he must have been in a relationship with Amber Geiger. And I have people calling into the show and say, well, hold on, wait a second. Esley Merritt, who's the family attorney, the lead attorney on the case, he said they reviewed text messages, cell phone records, emails. They talked to his family. They talked to his friends. There's absolutely no evidence that there was a relationship between Botham and Amber Geiger. And there's absolutely no evidence that they knew each other. And there still isn't. But you have people who just wanted to put forth their own narrative for whatever wicked reason they had, just wanted to put forth their own narrative, even when the evidence came in that their narrative was false. They just wanted to put it forth. You have people circulating around a picture of Botham with 3 white women. And these were co-workers of his. And one of the white women, somebody circled her face and said, that's the killer. She worked at PricewaterhouseCoopers with Botham. Not only was she not a police officer, she wasn't the killer. But for some reason, people just wanted to manufacture whatever it was they wanted and just go with that narrative. So this is why we have to do the research. This is why we have to operate based upon facts and evidence, okay? Not based upon opinions, all right? Okay, so 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. All right, so I think I have the audio fixed here. So let's see here. Okay, so let's try to go to this story here from Channel 2 down in Houston.
Capital murder and the death of 7-year-old Jazmine Barnes.
It was exactly 1 week ago that she was shot and killed as she and her mother were leaving a Walmart. The suspect just appeared before a judge. And Channel 2's Taisha Walker is live in downtown Houston with the latest on the case. Good morning, Taisha.
Capital murder of a person under the age
What do we do? Heard that Black was the driver and a man with the initials of LW is the suspected shooter, and that Jazmine and her family were never the intended target, and that the attempted, he alleged with the help of the tip that came in through email. We also know that it red pickup as initially thought, that it was a different vehicle. Let's refresh you that the shooting happened a week ago today. Jazmine was shot and killed. Her mother also injured in the arm when some men opened gunfire on that vehicle. We are told that there are more than 8 things that were discovered within a 400 feet radius of that shooting. Investigators they can be admitted today at 2 p.m. this morning and bring an update.
Okay, all right. So that was Channel 2 News there in the Houston, Texas area. Read the article from AtlantaBlackStar.com. 20-year-old Black man arrested and charged in the slaying of Jazmine Barnes. Family explains mistaken ID of shooting suspect. 20-year-old Black man arrested and charged in the slaying of Jazmine Barnes. Family explains mistaken ID of shooting suspect. And in the article, it says Jazmine's mother, LaPortia Washington, has said she believes the shooting was racially motivated. Okay, this is what she initially said. The alleged shooter was earlier described as a white man in a red truck, but the sheriff's office did not immediately identify Eric Black's race. Hundreds of protesters gathered at a rally Saturday afternoon for the girl near where the shooting happened. People held up balloons and stuffed animals, as well as signs that said "Justice for Jazmine." All right, now, activist Sean King has been in touch with the family since Eric Black Jr. was arrested and offered insight into the mistaken identity on Twitter. He said, quote, "I am told that Larry Woodruff and Eric Black Jr. shot and killed Jazmine Barnes in a drive-by shooting, believing that they were shooting someone else from a rival gang, G-A-N-G, right? Rival gang that had nothing to do with Jazmine Barnes." All right. This is what Sean King tweeted. Now, we have also learned where the white suspect in the red truck came from. After Woodruff and Black shot and killed Jazmine Barnes, 4 credible independent eyewitnesses heard the shooting and saw a white man in a red truck speed off. Let me repeat. After Woodruff and Black shot and killed Jazmine Barnes, 4 credible independent eyewitnesses heard the shooting and saw the white man in a red truck speed off. It also appears that man was an innocent bystander who fled, F-L-E-D, actually fearing for his life as well. He was not the shooter, end quote. Now, Sean King also shared a message from the family thanking him for helping capture the person involved with their daughter's death. All right. So read that article from AtlantaBlackStar.com. It's interesting. See, when I post, so there's an article from CBS News today that talked about this, a lot of the same information. And I posted it on our Facebook fan page. Immediately people say fake news, blah, blah, blah. This is not true, blah, blah, blah. I said, read the article. See, we have to get into, so then I had to put the caption there, read the article, then comment in big, bold letters. Because if you actually read the article before you start commenting, then you have a better understanding of what actually took place. Okay? Because when you start looking at some of the comments people made, you could tell they did not read the article. So if we look at the article from CNN, CNN.com, a missed turn signal leads to the arrest of a suspect, okay? A missed turn signal leads to the arrest of a suspect in Jazmine Barnes' killing. And this was last updated, let's see, 7:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, this is from today. And they have a quote, they have a tweet in here from Esley Merritt, okay, the attorney. Let's see if it's still in here. Right. Okay, so this tweet came at 3:32 a.m. Sunday, January 6th. 3:32 a.m. Attorney Esley Merritt, the family attorney, said, obviously, the men arrested don't fit the description of multiple witnesses of the sketch. Initially, this fact made it difficult to accept the tip that resulted in these arrests. However, if the confession obtained is reliable, there is likely an explanation for the confusion. So the tips came into Sean King and Esley Merritt. All right, and they relayed that information to the police, rightfully so. All right, okay, 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if we have a question or comment. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. All right, and see, this is why, because I've been doing, number one, because I've been studying history for 26 years, and I understand a history of people dying, especially African Americans dying, when people either lie or put out misinformation. Okay, and the misinformation could be unintentional. But because I understand what happens when misinformation gets out and it gets beyond a point where you can control it because it just spreads from person to person to person and race riots break out. This is why I say, look, we had to get more facts before we start going with this narrative. Okay. And in the second hour, when we talk about the massacre of Rosewood, Florida, in January of 1923, that happened because of a lie, because a white woman named Fannie Taylor lied on a fictitious black man and said he broke into her house and beat her. And that did not happen. And because of her lie, you had African Americans who were killed and an entire black town was destroyed. And African Americans had to flee for their lives and leave their homes and land that they owned behind. Because a white woman lied. She was cheating on her husband with another white man. And this white man beat her behind. And instead of confessing to her husband that she was cheating on him, because almost everybody in the town, almost everybody in Rosewood and a lot of people in Sumner knew she was cheating on him. But instead of her telling the truth, she lied on a fictitious black man, and African Americans were killed as a result of this. That's what happened with the Rosewood Massacre of January 1923. We're going to talk about that in the second hour. I did a Facebook Live broadcast, put that on YouTube. That's going crazy. That's going viral. I did that yesterday. Okay. All right. 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. All right. Okay. So check out these articles. We'll post them here on the thread of the broadcast. But it's important for us to understand we got to get more facts. And see, this is why I wasn't quick to jump and say, oh, this was a white supremacist who shot and killed Jazmine. This was racially motivated. It could be, but it doesn't have to be. We got to get more facts before we just start going with that narrative. It could be, but it does not have to be. Because, and actually, when I first heard the story, I said, this could be a case of mistaken identity. The intended target could have been somebody else, and they accidentally got the wrong person. That was one of the first things that came to mind when I heard the story. All right. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. Okay, let's go to line 1. Let's go to Greg, line 1. Hey, welcome to the African History Network show. Greg, tell us where you're calling from.
I'm calling from Livonia, Michigan.
Okay, Livonia, Michigan. All right, go ahead, Greg, with your question or comment.
I just want to make a quick comment. Now, as far as with blacks, and still to this day, it's always been, it doesn't have to be true to go out and persecute a black person. You don't have to make up a lie. You know, they do it at will. You know, it's convenient. It's happening, and it's happening now.
You say you don't have to make up a lie?
Nah, not the black. You just point to him and say he did it. You know, and that's it. You know, the prison system is full of innocent black men. You know, so that's you know that. But you're correct, and not only when it comes to identifying people and making false identifications, that's a fitting circuit. Before you make a statement or get involved in the conversation with you got wrong information, you should, you know, be quiet until you get your facts straight. And that happens much too often, especially in this political environment.
Yes.
I was raised, I spent a lot of time in the library that's coming up as a child because my mother saw to it. We didn't have any iTunes, whatever, all these technical devices back then. We read books.
Right, right.
One book led to another, and I mean, just to confirm what you read. Don't believe everything you read. You got to go over and check it out, make sure it's accurate. That's basically what I want to say. And I enjoy your show. I follow you on Facebook as well, sir. And I enjoy the conversation, and I learned a lot from you.
Oh, thank you.
And you can, I get a lot of knockbacks through you. So God bless you, and Happy New Year. All
right, Greg. Happy New Year to you too, man. Thank you. Thank you. All right, look, we're coming up on a break. When we come back, we're going to get into surviving R. Kelly. Surviving R. Kelly. Did you survive watching Surviving R. Kelly? Did you almost die watching Surviving R. Kelly? We're going to talk about Surviving R. Kelly. If his victims were white girls, he would be in prison right now. Oh, I guarantee you that. If he was doing that to white women, oh, he'd be in prison right now. They wouldn't have to do a documentary to get justice. If he was doing that to white girls, if he had a white girl in the video with him in a threesome, okay, an underage white girl, and the jury saw that, oh, he would have been convicted, period. He'd be in prison right now. All right. So we'll talk about that when we come back from the break. I want to let you know that Second Baptist Church, we go from R. Kelly to the church. Okay. But anyway, this is a press release, so I have to read it. Okay. All right. So Dr. King Day is coming up. We all know this, right? And Second Baptist Church is marking the 33rd observance of the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. 2019, the historic Second Baptist Church of Detroit will host an interfaith program and breakout discussion entitled Coming Together in Divided Times. Coming Together in Divided Times. Representatives from the Christian, Jewish, and Islamic faith communities will come together for a look back and plan forward to reinvigorate Dr. King's dreams. This is put together by the Board of Christian School Concerns of Second Baptist. It's taking place January 21st, 2019, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. January 21st, 2019, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. at 441 Monroe Street in Detroit, down in Greektown, 441 Monroe Street in Detroit. And this is to observe Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Their keynote speaker will be Michael Imhotep, host of the African History Network show. Yes, I'll be the keynote speaker. I'll be there. So I'll be the keynote speaker. You don't want to miss this because I deal with the distortion of the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The revolutionary will not be televised on the television. The distortion of the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the revolutionary, will not be televised on the television. This is open to the public. Refreshments will be served. This is free and open to the public. We'll get the flyer up on our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. This is taking place That's Monday, January 21st, 2019, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., okay? And for more information, call 313-961-0920. 313-961-0920. That's the number there to the church. Or you can email them at info@secondbaptistdetroit.org. Info, I-N-F-O, at secondbaptistdetroit.org. Now, I'll also be over at the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History. I'll be there as well. I'll be doing double duty because their event is 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History. They have a huge day planned. There's a breakfast and all types of things going on to celebrate Dr. King Day. We'll have Charles Farrell from the Vice President of Programming at the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History. We'll have him on the show next week. We'll talk some about that, okay? We're coming up on a break. When we come back, we'll talk about surviving R. Kelly. If his victims were white girls, he would be in prison right now. You listen to the African History Network show, 9:10 a.m. to Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes.
So you've decided to go to college. That's cool. So
all right.
Quiz, which is another way to earn your degree? Commute to college, fill the gas tank, get stuck in traffic.
All right. Stand by, guys. Stand by. And we're on YouTube also. All right. How's everybody doing? Okay, stand by on YouTube. We'll be back in 4 minutes, okay, with mandatory commercial break. How's everybody doing on Facebook? Okay, guys, hey, you can give us a call, 313-778-7600 if you want to. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number. If you have a question or comment, we'll go to this story dealing with R. Kelly and surviving R. Kelly. All right. Also, if you like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network, paypal.me/the AHN show, paypal.me/the AHN show. And also we have a sale going on at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. 48-hour sale, get 50% off a lot of our bundle packs and some of our digital downloads. And also 50% off we got 50% off, let's see, 50% off some of our, the online course as well. Actually, it's more than 50% off. The online courses that I teach, we have a 10-course online bundle pack, dealing with ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school, okay? So we have that also. We'll post the links here, but that's all at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. All right, so share this broadcast on your YouTube channels and on Facebook also. And let's see, where is Facebook broadcast? Right here. All right, we'll be back from break in 2 minutes. I guess it is 2 or 3 minutes. So did you all see R. Kelly? Did you see Surviving R. Kelly? All right. Did you see Surviving R. Kelly? So I learned a lot that I did not already know. There's some things that I knew. I remember the trial, but the trial was back in like 2008. So there's some things that I forgot about it, right? But the thing that this documentary did was it pulled all of this stuff that we've been hearing for about the last 20 years or so. It pulled all of it together, okay? It pulled all of it together in one documentary and provided us with a lot of information, and a lot of these things were things that we did not know. Okay, so one thing is for certain: R. Kelly needs some help. Okay, R. Kelly is sick. He needs some help. He was the victim of molestation as well. Okay, and he talked about that in the documentary. All right, he was interviewed by Teray in 2012. And talked about being molested when he was a child from about the ages of 7 to about 12 or 13 by a family member. Okay, so R. Kelly definitely needs some help. He needs to be in prison also, but he needs some help as well. All right, stand by. We'll be back in a few minutes here. Let's see here. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. I guess how much time we have before we come back, Azure?
2 minutes.
2 minutes? Okay. All right, so we'll be back from break in 2 minutes. Okay, so also we'll talk about Trump's shutdown, Trump's government shutdown. This is all his fault. This is his shutdown. He can't blame the Democrats for this. This is his shutdown. He said he would take the blame for it. It's in his 16th day. It's getting dire. You have 800,000 workers, federal workers, who are not who are working and not receiving paycheck. You have about 400 and you have 400,000 some who are working and not receiving pay, and you have about another 370,000, 380,000 that are furloughed. So they're not coming to work and they're not being paid. All right. And this is all because of a fake wall. This is all because of a fake wall. All right. That Trump lied about. And Trump said Mexico was going to pay for this fake wall. We'll talk about that also.
10 seconds.
All right. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation Future Radio. Hey, I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. We are in our second hour. It is Sunday, January 6, 2019. And we're going into our second hour. In the first hour, we gave an update dealing with the killing of Jazmine Barnes, and 2 suspects have been arrested. Jazmine Barnes, 7 years old, killed in Houston, Texas, December 30th, 2018. Next, I want to talk about the documentary, the 6-part documentary series on Lifetime, Surviving R. Kelly, right? And a couple months ago, I saw some information and some clips talking about it was coming out. I saw Andrea Kelly, his ex-wife, interviewed on Sister Circle Live. And I didn't know it was going to be as deep as it actually was, okay? I did not know it was going to be as deep as it actually was. But thegrio.com has a good series of articles written by Kate Young, C-A-T-E, Kate Young. And there have been a number of articles written about this. And she did a review of Surviving R. Kelly each night. If we look at episode 2, Surviving R. Kelly, night 2, how the Pied Piper of R&B continued making hits during his child pornography trial. And I mean, this what the documentary did from Dream Hampton, who's from Detroit. What it did was it interviewed survivors who were in relationships with R. Kelly, those who are saying that they were abused, they were having sex with them, or quote unquote sex slaves, however you want to put it. You have some who said he was physically abusive, verbally abusive. Basically, all of them said there was some type of psychological abuse. All right. So according to his victims, R. Kelly was a brazen manipulator who used his fame to lure young women into his orbit and ensnare them in a complicated web of isolation and helplessness. The second of 3 2-hour installments of Dream Hampton's documentary, Surviving R. Kelly, aired Friday night on Lifetime and focused on how the Pied Piper of R&B had his crimes in plain sight, even as he stood trial on child pornography charges. Now, he called himself the Pied Piper of R&B. Now, the Pied Piper is an old children's story, right? And it's about a guy who plays a flute-like instrument. He's the Pied Piper. And he lures the children of a village away playing the flute, and the children are never seen again. This is Google Pied Piper. Go research that. That's what the Pied Piper is. A man who lured children away with music, lured children away from their parents with music, never to be seen again. That's what the Pied Piper was. And R. Kelly calls himself the Pied Piper of R&B. So when you look at this, there are clues all over the place. When you go through and look at this, there are flags on this play everywhere. So one of the things that Surviving R. Kelly makes abundantly clear is that R. Kelly's music and his predation are inextricably linked. Over the years, he has used his musical talents to help destigmatize his outrageous sexual behavior and also to enable his continued abuse of young women. His success in the industry gave him institutional cover, and the money his chart-topping hits generated for the executives around him insulated him from responsibility. So we remember, hits like I Believe I Can Fly, Step in the Name of Love, Ignition, things like this, 12 Play, all right? And what happens is, especially for younger people, it becomes hard to separate the artist, okay, from disturbing behavior that the artist exhibits. Oftentimes the music, the artistry that the person produces overrides these character flaws. Because if he was just Robert Kelly from the South Side of Chicago and couldn't sing, couldn't dance, couldn't rap, couldn't play football, couldn't play baseball, couldn't play basketball, he was just a brother from the South Side and he was doing this stuff, people would say, he needs to be in prison. But because he's R. Kelly and we have his music on our iPhones, on our Android phones, we have his CDs, okay? We have his MP3s, many of us, because we may play him at the cookout or the family reunion, because we may have gotten into because maybe we started learning Chicago stepping because of Step in the Name of Love. A lot of things that the normal person would not get away with, he gets away with. And if these had been white women, I guarantee you, if these had been white women he was doing this to, he would have been in prison a long time ago. If America's dad, Bill Cosby, is in prison right now, and most of the women he was involved with were white. Now, I'm not saying he raped all the women, anything like that. I'm not saying that. There were different allegations. Different women had different allegations against Bill Cosby. What I am saying is that if Bill Cosby is in prison right now, I think there was a bogus case. And the whole thing, it was definitely political, because when we look at Bill Cosby, we see that in the previous district attorney election, charging Bill Cosby became a campaign issue for the current DA, because the previous DA said there wasn't enough evidence to charge him. Okay, so it was definitely political. But if these had been white girls that R. Kelly was doing this to, it would be a whole different story, and this stuff would not be overlooked. Now, one of the things that Surviving R. Kelly makes abundantly clear is that R. Kelly's music and his predation are inextricably linked, okay? Now, his success in the industry gave him institutional cover, and the money his chart-topping hits generated for the executives around him insulated him from responsibility. As a hit-making factory unto himself, R. Kelly was too valuable an asset to be lost. See, today, R. Kelly's not generating as much money as he used to back in the 90s, right? Coloratchange.org, we have to pull up the article. Coloratchange.org is calling for his contract, his recording contract, to be canceled. Okay, I saw an article today from Color Change. I probably sent out an email about this. And then we know you have the Mute R. Kelly campaign going on, and there have been protests at different concerts around the country. R. Kelly concerts, some have had to be canceled because of Mute R. Kelly. This is going to give the whole Mute R. Kelly movement a huge boost. Okay. Now, Dream Hampton's interviews with R. Kelly survivor Lisa Van Allen depict a woman who was calm, measured, and determined as she recounts her horror at discovering that not only had she been having sex with an underage girl at R. Kelly's behest, but that he had tapes that showed the three of them together. Through tears, Lisa Van Allen details how it was her own attempts at self-preservation that led to the leak of the infamous sex tape, okay, that was child pornography, okay? The copied tape was distributed all over Chicago and eventually the entire country as the salaciousness of an R. Kelly sex tape drew curious eyes to the rape of an underage girl. Now, do people understand that they were distributing child pornography? Distributing this tape? I've never seen the tape, don't want to see it. Do people understand that they were distributing child pornography? Because I guarantee if that was a white girl, oh, they would clearly understand this is child pornography, and that's illegal. But what happens is because of a history of African Americans' humanity being devalued in this country, and African Americans, both men and women, being hypersexualized because of slavery and after slavery, right? That people feel they can get away with things like this with African American women. Now, the copied tape was distributed all over Chicago and eventually the entire country as the salaciousness of an R. Kelly tape drew curious eyes to the rape of an underage girl. It was yet another way in which R. Kelly inadvertently made his victims participate in each other's abuse and exploitation. But even when R. Kelly was charged with 12 counts of possession of child pornography, he was able to manipulate the press and the public to his advantage. As the trial dragged on for years, R. Kelly used the intervening time to drop some of the biggest hits of his career, including Step in the Name of Love and Ignition Remix from his #1 album, Chocolate Factory, cementing himself as a superstar and giving him time to rebuild his reputation and relationships damaged by the allegations. The plausible deniability of the unfinished trial created an air of danger and intrigue that drew more fans to him, even as the damning content of the tape became pop culture fodder. The trial's delay had the additional benefit of undermining his victims through the simple passage of time. As the young women got older, they ceased to look like the popular conception of quote unquote innocent young girls, a designation that was already being stripped of them because of their Blackness. As writer and critic Jamila Lemieux put it, R. Kelly's ability to make music was more important than protecting the lives of Black girls. And see, if we look at the study from the American Psychological Association, I've talked about it here on this show before. March 6, 2014, Black boys viewed as older, less innocent than whites, research finds. Black boys viewed as older, less innocent than whites, research finds. And this comes from Dr. Philip Atiba Goff. And he was on back when Dr. Melissa Harris Perry had her show on MSNBC. He was a frequent guest on there. And he talked about this study on the show. But this applies to African-American girls as well. It's not just for African-American boys. Black boys as young as age 10 may not be viewed in the same light of childhood innocence as their white peers, but are instead more likely to be mistaken as older, be perceived as guilty, and face police violence if accused of a crime, according to new research published by the American Psychological Association. Quote, children in most societies are considered to be in a distinct group with characteristics such as innocence and the need for protection, Our research found that Black boys can be seen as responsible for their actions at an age when white boys still benefit from the assumption that children are essentially innocent. Our research found that Black boys can be seen as responsible for their actions at an age when white boys still benefit from the assumption that children are essentially innocent, end quote, said author Dr. Philippa Tiba Goff of the University of California, Los Angeles. The study was published online in the American Psychological Association's Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, okay? So, the authors noted that, the researchers tested 176 police officers, mostly white males, average age of 37 in large urban areas to determine their levels of two distinct types of bias, prejudice and unconscious dehumanization of Black people by comparing them to apes, this APES, prejudice and unconscious dehumanization of Black people by comparing them to apes. To test for prejudice, researchers had officers complete a widely used psychological questionnaire with statements such as, quote, "It is likely that Blacks will bring violence to neighborhoods when they move in," end quote. To determine officers' dehumanization of Blacks, the researchers gave them a psychological test in which they paired Blacks and whites with large cats, such as lions, or with apes. Researchers reviewed police officers' personnel records to determine use of force while on duty and found that those who dehumanized Blacks were more likely to have used force against a Black child in custody than officers who did not dehumanize Blacks. The study described use of force as takedown or wrist lock, kicking or punching, striking with a blunt object, using a police dog, restraint, or hobbling, or using tear gas, electric shock, or killing. Only dehumanization and not police officers' prejudice against Blacks, conscious or not, was linked to violent encounters with Black children in custody, according to the study. Only dehumanization and not police officers' prejudice against Blacks, conscious or not, was linked to violent encounters with Black children in custody, according to the study. The authors noted that police officers' unconscious dehumanization of Blacks could have been the result of negative interactions with Black children rather than the cause of using force with Black children. Quote, "We found evidence that overestimating age and culpability based on racial differences was linked to dehumanizing stereotypes. But future research should try to clarify the relationship between dehumanization and racial disparities in police use of force," end quote, said Dr. Philippa Tiba Goff. So when you research this, right, you find that African-American girls are also perceived many times as being older and less innocent and not put into a protected class like white children are. Okay, so if we go back and we look at what Kate Young said in the article from thegrio.com, she referenced writer and critic Jamila Lemieux. Quote, "As writer and critic Jamila Lemieux put it, R. Kelly's ability to make music was more important than protecting the lives of Black girls." So then if we look at what Chance the Rapper said, okay, so HelloBeautiful.com has an article about Chance the Rapper, and we'll go to the phone lines on the other side of the break. We're coming up on a break in 2 minutes. 313-778-7600 is the calling number. 313-778-7600 is the calling number. We'll go to the phone lines when we come back from the break, and we're coming up on a break in a couple of minutes. HelloBeautiful.com has an article. Chance the Rapper on R. Kelly's alleged victims. Quote, "I didn't value their stories because they were black women. Okay, in a never-aired interview for Cassius, the Grammy-winning rapper apologized for working with the Pied Piper, R. Kelly, in the past and why he did it." So this is an article that came out today, January 6, 2019. He's Chance the Rapper, if I remember correctly, he's in they show that clip in the documentary. A clip featuring Chance the Rapper is making waves on the internet as the finale of Surviving R. Kelly dropped on Saturday night. In a never-aired interview for Cassius, former Interactive former Interactive One VP Jamila Lemieux sat down with the Grammy winner in May of 2018 to discuss a range of topics, including his past collaboration with the Pied Piper R. Kelly. In it, Chance the Rapper, a Chicago native, apologized for working with R. Kelly, the Believe I Can Fly singer, and explained why he did it at the time. He said, quote, "We're programmed to be really hypersensitive to Black male oppression. We're programmed to be really hypersensitive to Black male oppression. It's just prevalent in all media. And when you see," he used the N-word, I don't, "getting beat up by the police, it's men," okay? He goes on to say, "That's a scene you see, slavery for a lot of people. They envision men in chains," he said. He went on to say, quote, "But Black women are exponentially a higher oppressed and violated group of people just in comparison to the whole world. Maybe I didn't care because I didn't value the accuser's stories because they were Black women," end quote. We'll pick this up on the other side of the break. You listen to the African History Network show, 9:10 a.m. the Superstation. I'm Michael Imhotep, 313-778-7600. We'll be back in a few minutes. All right, stand by, everybody. 2-minute break. Stand by. How's everybody doing? All right, stand by. Okay, share this broadcast. We'll be right back. All right.
No.
Okay, guys. How's everybody doing? Who we have here? We have on YouTube, okay, Courtney and Amand and Plum Jade, Jake. Just a few of the people here. All right. Okay, and on Facebook.
30 seconds.
Who we have here? Okay. Let's see who we have here on Facebook. I don't know why people inbox me stuff while I'm on the air. All right, we'll be back in just a minute. We'll go to the phone lines.
10 seconds.
All right, did somebody hang up?
Yeah.
Okay, I told them I was coming to them.
5.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation, the Future Radio. Hey, I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It's Sunday, January 6, 2019. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. And we're continuing our discussion from the previous segment for a little while longer, talking about surviving R. Kelly. We may have to talk about this some more next week because this also deals with protecting African-American girls. And right before the break, I talked about how Chance the Rapper was interviewed and they aired that segment. I think it was in the documentary. I know I saw it. I think it was in the documentary. They aired that segment from an interview that Jamil Lemieux did with him. And he talked about basically how he did not take the girls, the women seriously, or girls at the time, a lot of them, their allegations seriously against R. Kelly because they were Black women. Okay, now, 2 things. One, it's sad that he said it and sad that he felt that way. But 2, it's good that he admitted it so we can deal with that. Okay, and because he is a popular hip hop artist, all right, and one of the more intelligent hip hop artists, by the way, because of that, then that adds a whole new dynamic because here you have a celebrity who did a song with R. Kelly back in 2015 who's admitting this, okay? So that's extremely important also. All right. Okay. Let's go to the phone lines quickly. Then we'll pick up again on Chance the Rapper. Let's go to the phone lines quickly. Let's go to Wadsworth, line 1. Hey, Wadsworth, welcome to the African History Network show. Tell us where you're calling from. Wadsworth, you there? Do we have Wadsworth? Wadsworth, you're on the air. Okay, we'll let him get his phone together. We'll come back to Wadsworth in just a minute. All right. Okay, so let's continue here. Once again, that article from dealing with Chance the Rapper, it's from hellobeautiful.com. Chance the Rapper on R. Kelly's alleged victims. I didn't value their stories because they were Black women, end quote. Okay. And we'll post this on our Facebook and YouTube threads also. So let's go back to this article. So he added that quote, but Black women are exponentially and higher oppressed and violated group of people just in comparison to the world. Maybe I didn't care because I didn't value the accuser's stories because they were Black women, end quote. Now, Rolling Stone magazine had previously reported that Chance the Rapper simply said, quote, I didn't value the accuser's stories because they were Black women, end quote. However, Chance the Rapper clapped back on Saturday night saying the quote was taken out of context because it didn't take into account everything he had said before that in the interview. In a note he shared on social media, the 25-year-old explained his controversial quote. He said, quote, the quote was taken out of context. The truth is, any of us who ever ignored the R. Kelly stories or ever believed he was being set up, attacked by the system, attacked by the system, as Black men often are, were doing so at the detriment of Black women and girls. I apologize to all of his survivors for working with him and for taking this long to speak out, end quote. All right, so he went on to say on Twitter, 11:50 p.m., January 5th, 2019, anyone mentioning that I have Black women in my family is deliberately missing the point. Regardless of the proximity of beneficial Black women in your life, or being Black yourself, we all are capable of subconsciously discrediting Black women and their stories because it's indoctrinated, okay? So the article goes on to say, even with Chance the Rapper explaining himself, many Black women still flocked to Twitter to express how his quotes made them feel, and the results were polarizing. Some condemned the rapper, while others commended him for being able to admit he was wrong. All right, so check out that article as well. Okay, if we go back to the, we'll post this here. If we go back to the, I want to go back to the one from thegrio.com from Kate Young, because she did a review of each night's installment of Surviving R. Kelly also. And, you know, you got to see, you got to hear from the survivors themselves. So in the last installment, episode 6, you had the young sister named Dominique. And allegedly R. Kelly had her dressing like a boy and wearing her hair like a boy, wearing boys' clothes, things like this. And her mother saw a TMZ interview with another girl who is allegedly with R. Kelly. And she saw her daughter in the video, and she and the producers were able to track her daughter down to a hotel, and she actually got to speak with her daughter and rescued her daughter, okay, from that situation. And if you watched it all the way to the end, and they show like a synopsis of what happened to the people after the camera stopped rolling, it said that Dominique went back to R. Kelly 3 days later, okay? But then she's back with her mother now. If you actually watched it to the end, it said Dominique went back to, after her mother rescued her, it said Dominique went back to R. Kelly 3 days later, but she's back with her mother now. All right. And they had clinical psychologists that talked about how oftentimes predators will prey on younger people because the frontal lobe of your brain does not fully develop till you're about 25 years old. And the frontal lobe is critical when it comes to decision-making processes. And this is why rental car companies do not rent cars to people under 25 years old, because your full decision-making capacity, your full decision-making capabilities have not fully developed, okay, until you're about 25. So when you go and rent a car, it stipulates you have to be at least 25 years old. There's a reason why. All right. Okay. So 313-778-7600 is the call-in number. And then we got to hear from parents. And, you know, the other thing is that they talked about Aaliyah. All right. And we all knew that R. Kelly married Aaliyah. She was 15 years old when he married her. Right. But Teray, the social critic, and he was on MTV, used to be on MTV. He used to be on the show The Cycle a few years ago on MSNBC, Teray. Teray interviewed R. Kelly in 2012, and they showed an excerpt of the interview in the documentary. And in that interview, R. Kelly admitted to being sexually molested when he was, he said, between the ages of about 7 to about 12 or 13 years old. And he said it was by a family member. Now, he didn't say, in the interview, he didn't say whether it was a male or female family member, okay? But he said it was by a family member. And he didn't name the family member or anything like this. He didn't say what the relationship was. But also, his younger brother said that he was sexually molested by a family member as well. Okay. And he said that he told R. Kelly that when they were children, he said he told R. Kelly that he was being sexually molested by a family member. And he said that R. Kelly told him that that didn't happen. That wasn't happening. But at the time, apparently at the time, he didn't know that R. Kelly was being sexually molested as well. All right. So these are things that came out. So I didn't know that the younger brother was sexually molested. I didn't know R. Kelly had an older brother who's in prison. They interviewed his older brother in prison, talking about, you know, what's going on in the family, things like that. So I'm sitting there like, wow. I'm like, this is deep. Okay. But what we do know is that oftentimes hurt people hurt people. H-U-R-T. Hurt people hurt people. And oftentimes those who are abusers, those who are molesters, etc., that was done to them. Okay. So if we go back to the article from Kate Young dealing with episode 2, R. Kelly's trial and subsequent acquittal demonstrated that his adoring public was also complicit in his abuses. As journalist and culture critic Nelson George stated, Nelson George is in the documentary also, his audience supported him despite the wide circulation of the tape that evidenced his crimes, allowing him to generate millions for people who then became invested in protecting him. R. Kelly was free to continue abusing women and girls because the gatekeepers who should have acted as a check on his behavior chose instead to look the other way in service of their bottom line. Every dollar spent on R. Kelly on an R. Kelly record was money that was funneled towards maintaining the stranglehold he had on the young girls unlucky enough to become involved with him. All right. So check out. So she has a series of articles at thegrio.com, G-R-I-O. Really good. Kate Young, C-A-T-E. This one is Surviving R. Kelly Night 2, how the Pied Piper of R&B continued making hits during his child pornography. Once again, the Pied Piper, that's a children's story about a man who plays a flute-like instrument and lures the children of a village away from their parents, never to be seen again. And he's using music to do it. And R. Kelly calls himself the Pied Piper of R&B. Interesting. So you had Sparkle in there also. It was Sparkle's niece who was in the video. She was, if I remember correctly, 14, 15 at the time. So this is, I mean, this is deep. There's an article at newsone.com, and I'm going to pull up here in just a minute. I thought I had it up already. There's an article at newsone.com dealing with why R. Kelly's brother was in prison as well. Okay, so you want to check that out also. Try to pull that one up also, why R. Kelly's brother was in prison. Okay, we're going to go to the story dealing with Rosewood here in just a minute also. All right. Okay, 313-778-7600 is the call-in number. If you have a question or comment, 313-778-7600 is the call-in number. Hey, visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We have a 48-hour sale going on. We have some of our bundle packs that are 50% off. We have the bundle pack, the Africans that were here before Columbus, the Africans that were here before Columbus bundle pack as well. And that's on sale. It's an 8 DVD bundle pack, and it deals with the African presence in this country going back thousands of years ago. It includes a double lecture I did with Dr. David Imhotep, who wrote the book, The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence. It also includes a lecture from Dr. Ivan Van Sertima, who wrote the book, They Came Before Columbus, and also lecture 2 from Dr. John Henry Clark dealing with Christopher Columbus and the African Holocaust also, okay? So that's at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Our online classes are on sale. We have a 10-course online bundle pack, and they're all on demand. That's on sale for a very limited time, only $40, regularly $130. They're all on demand. You can watch around the world, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. All right, so celebrities are speaking out as well. NBCnews.com has an article dealing with that also. So, celebrities react to Lifetime Surviving R. Kelly docuseries. And Blavity.com has an article, as well as newsone.com also. Survivors flood sexual assault hotline after the premiere of Surviving R. Kelly. Survivors flood sexual assault hotline after the premiere of Surviving R. Kelly. And they talk about how sexual assault hotlines had seen a big increase in calls coming in since the airing of this docuseries, okay? So newsone.com has a article. Here's why R. Kelly's older brother is incarcerated. Bruce Kelly is his name, was extremely disturbing on Surviving R. Kelly. There are many disturbing interviews in the Lifetime docuseries Surviving R. Kelly, which aired again last night and took over social media. One of the most troubling people interviewed is R. Kelly's older brother, Bruce Kelly, who is talking while incarcerated. Many have asked why he is behind bars, and now his rap sheet has hit the internet. The website, Oxygen.com reports, quote, Bruce Kelly is currently incarcerated at Chicago's Cook County Jail for theft, burglary, possession of a controlled substance, and an outstanding arrest warrant. Sam Randall, the communications director at the Cook County Sheriff's Office, confirmed to Oxygen.com on Friday. His bond is currently set at $100,000, end quote. He allegedly has a court date next month, so that'd be February 2019. But those are just the most recent charges. He has also been arrested for criminal trespass, theft, and retail theft, according to court documents. On the most disturbing, one of the most disturbing things Bruce said in the docuseries was, quote, Robert likes younger women. You have people who have fetishes about different things. I like older women. Go figure, you know, but that's just a preference. Everyone has preferences. So what is the big deal? What's the big issue with my brother? End quote. This is what his brother Bruce Kelly said in the documentary. The big deal is the docuseries examines more than 2 decades of R. Kelly allegedly sexually assaulting children and women. The first-hand accounts are horrific, and anyone, including his brother, who would defend him is morally bankrupt and does not value the lives of Black women and girls, according to the article here. This is from News One staff, January 5th, 2019. But there is definitely a devaluation of African-American girls, African-American women, African-American people historically coming from a history of slavery and white supremacy and racism, but it continues, okay? And we have to break that. This is why we have to reclaim African history and culture. This is why we have to attack negative corporate hip-hop, because negative corporate hip-hop, negative corporate control hip-hop devalues African-Americans, period, but especially African-American women. Because other people don't allow music to be put out calling their women B's and H's and all this, thoughts and all this, dehumanizing them, okay? That has a big impact on the way people perceive them and treat them, okay? So we have to, you know, African history and culture gives us our VIPs, our values and our interests and our principles, and influences, you know, our economic empowerment, our political empowerment, influences our media. You know, your thoughts create feelings, your feelings create actions and behaviors, your actions and behaviors create results. So this is why, you know, this is why we really have to attack that, because we're being attacked by the media like this. All right. Now, colorchange.org is calling for R. Kelly's contract to be canceled. Also, check that out as well. I forgot, just Google that, colorchange.org, because I can't pull it up right now. All right. So since we're running out of time, some of these other stories, you know, we posted articles dealing with the shutdown, and we dealt with Trump's fake wall. Let me try to squeeze something in quickly here. The New York Times had an article, right? And so those that listen to 9:10 a.m. the Superstation, and you know, Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. to 5 p.m., Reverend Al Sharpton show is on right here on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation. Monday through Friday is nationally syndicated show. So when you hear people calling to these radio shows talk about build the wall, you need to hit them with facts and evidence. Hit them with this article here from the New York Times, okay? Because half of Donald Trump supporters can't read. I'm just being quite honest with you. Half of them can't read. This is why when they call in, they don't have any facts and evidence usually. How the border wall is boxing Trump in. How the border wall is boxing Trump in. This is from January 5th, 2019 for the New York Times. And Joanne Reed talked about it this morning on AM Joy, MSNBC, okay? And it talks about how before it became the chief sticking point in a government shutdown drama that threatens to consume his presidency at a critical moment, Donald Trump's promise to build a wall on the southwestern border was a memory trick for an undisciplined candidate. Listen to me. This whole thing is a fraud. And this is what I told you. They're not talking about building a wall along the Canadian border. The Canadian border goes all across the northern United States. You have white undocumented immigrants coming through the Canadian border. The focus is not on white undocumented immigrants. It's on undocumented immigrants of color, because there is a fear of the browning of America. As Donald Trump began exploring a presidential run in 2014, he began exploring a presidential run. His political advisors landed on the idea of a border wall, W-A-L-L, as a mnemonic device of sorts. A mnemonic, okay? It's different memory tricks to help you remember something, okay? It may be an acronym, okay, of a word that helps you to remember something, okay? It's just like I use a mnemonic, Cancun, okay, C-A-N-C-U-N, to remember the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo of 1848 in the 6 states that the U.S. got in the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo: Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico, California, Utah, and Nevada. Cancun. That's a mnemonic, all right? They created the wall as a mnemonic device for Trump, okay? As Trump began exploring a presidential run in 2014, his political advisors landed on the idea of a border wall as a mnemonic device of sorts, a way to make sure their candidate, who hated reading from a script, he hates reading, period, but he hates reading from a script, but loved boasting about himself because he's a narcissist, and his talents, boasting about his talents as a builder, he would remember to talk about getting tough on immigration, which was to be a signature issue in his campaign. Sam Nunberg, who's an idiot. Sam Nunberg was just on MSNBC today. Sam Nunberg, quote, how do we get him to continue to talk about immigration, end quote. Sam Nunberg, one of Donald Trump's early political advisors, recalled telling Roger Stone Jr., who's going to be indicted by Mueller. Roger Stone knows he's going to be indicted, okay? Sam Nunberg recalled telling Roger Stone Jr., who was another advisor of Trump, quote, we're going to get him to talk about he's going to build a wall. Quote, we're going to get him to talk about he's going to build a wall, end quote. Talk Donald Trump did, and the line drew rapturous cheers from conservative audiences, thrilling the candidate and soon becoming a staple of campaign speeches. Chants of build the wall, echoed through arenas throughout the country. Now, Donald Trump's fixation with the border wall, the material embodiment of his keep them out immigration agenda, has run headlong into the new realities of divided government, pitting him against Democrats who reject the idea out of hand. The impasse is particularly remarkable given that even some immigration hardliners do not regard the wall as their highest priority and fear that Donald Trump's preoccupation with this stupid wall will prompt him to cut a deal that trades a relatively ineffectual measure for major concessions of immigration. Mark Krikorian, the executive director of the Center for Immigration Studies, a group that argues for less immigration, said, quote, I've always thought it created a danger that he would trade almost anything in order to get the wall. I think that's still a potential danger. I'm still worried about that now, okay? That fear has been realized at times when Trump has explored a deal with Democrats on granting permanent legal status for undocumented immigrants brought to the U.S. as children known as dreamers, okay? This is DACA. All right. The president has always walked away at the last moment from committing to preserving the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program known as DACA. But on Friday, FAIR, an anti-immigration group, warned him that it would be a mistake. He walked away from 3 deals to preserve DACA after he said in January of 2018, he sat in the meeting dealing with immigration. He called immigrants from African nations, Haiti and El Salvador, he called them S-hole countries, right? And he met with the senators and he said, you bring me a deal to save DACA. He said, he folded his arms. He said, I'll sign it. I don't care. I'll take the heat for it. And he walked away from 3 deals. He's the worst negotiator I've ever seen. And he did not write the art of the deal. That was Tony Schwartz, who was the ghostwriter who wrote the art of the deal. It wasn't Donald Trump, okay? Google Tony Schwartz. Tony Schwartz was his ghostwriter. And Tony Schwartz has been interviewed numerous times on MSNBC, all right? So check out this article here, because this exposes the fraud of the wall. It was a joke. It was never supposed to be a physical wall, all right? And Joanne Reed talked about it this morning on AM Joy, all right? So check out this article, New York Times. Somebody said Roger Stone is a legend. Yeah, Roger Stone is a legend at being a conniving, backstabbing liar. He's known as a dirty trickster. Okay, he has a tattoo of Richard Nixon on his back. He's a crazy man. All right, speaking of crazy people, Rosewood. Okay, the Rosewood Massacre of 1923. All right, so this year is the 95th anniversary of the Rosewood Massacre that started January 1st, 1923. Okay, and this took place. Now you have to go to YouTube. First of all, we run out of time. I did a Facebook Live broadcast, put it on YouTube, dealing with Boris Kodjoe inviting 40 of his African-American celebrity friends to Ghana, part of the Full Circle Festival in Ghana, which helps reconnect African-Americans to African history and culture. Okay, go check that out. It's on Facebook Live and on you. Actually, watch it on YouTube. Okay, watch it on YouTube because it's going viral on YouTube. And then also, I did one dealing with the history of the Rosewood Massacre as well. All right, but very quickly here, the Rosewood Massacre. Rosewood, Florida massacre was an attack on the predominantly African-American town of Rosewood, Florida in 1923 by large groups of white men. The town was entirely destroyed in the end by violence, and the residents were driven out permanently. The story was mostly forgotten until the 1980s when it was revived and brought to public attention. Sumner, Florida was just a few miles from Rosewood. So Rosewood was an all African-American town. It ended up being that. It had a population of around 200. Some estimates show it as low as 120, but most of them have it around 200. Okay, and Rosewood had seen its own version of white flight after industry left Rosewood and whites moved to Sumner. There was a depletion of the cedar trees in Sumner, and there was a moving of the pencil factory. So the depletion of cedar trees there in Rosewood, and you had a lot of white families that moved to Sumner. And so I take it the pencil factory there in Rosewood used to provide a lot of jobs, and it's going to move to Sumner. Though it was originally settled in 1845 by both blacks and whites, black codes and Jim Crow laws in the years after the Civil War fostered segregation in Rosewood, Florida. Employment was provided by pencil factories, but the cedar tree population soon became decimated, and white families moved away in the 1890s and settled in the nearby town of Sumner, Florida. By the 1920s, Rosewood's population of about 200 was almost entirely made up of African-American citizens, except for one white family that ran the general store. The store owner's name was John Wright, okay? So many of us have seen the 1997 movie directed by John Singleton called Rosewood. And you had Bing Rames and you had Don Cheadle. Don Cheadle plays a real character named Sylvester Carrier. Bing Rames' character was a fictitious character named Man. When you research this, because I went to imdb.com, International Movie Database, right? His name is just Man, M-A-N-N. That's it, okay? That's a fictitious character. He's a former World War I veteran who comes into the town. He's a drifter, and he's looking for a place to live and potentially buy some land, all right? The one white man that lived in the town, he lived there with his white family. That was played by John Voight. His real name was John Wright, and he was the store owner, the general store owner. So what happened was on January 1st, 1923 in Sumner, Florida, 22-year-old Fannie Taylor, her name was Fannie Taylor, F-A-N-N-I-E. She was the wife of a mill worker. He was a foreman. His name was James Taylor. She was heard screaming by a neighbor. The neighbor found Fannie Taylor covered in bruises and claiming that a black man had entered her house or their house and assaulted her. She did not, however, say she was raped. She just said she was assaulted. But only that, but the word assault was interpreted as a sexual violation by the white people there in Sumner, Florida. The incident was reported to Sheriff Robert Elias Walker, with Fannie Taylor specifying that she had not, N-O-T, had not been raped. Fannie Taylor's husband, James Taylor, who was a foreman at the local mill, escalated the situation by gathering an angry mob of white citizens to hunt down the culprit. He also called for the help from whites in neighboring counties, among them a group of about 500 Ku Klux Klan members who were in Gainesville, Florida for a rally. The white mobs prowled the area woods searching for any African-American man they might find. Okay, while the fear of black on white violence have been stoked across the South since the days of slavery, particularly in areas where blacks outnumber whites, Fannie Taylor's claim was especially pernicious. All right. Now, what happened was you had a man who escaped from a nearby chain gang. His name was Jesse Hunter. Okay, so when law enforcement found out that Jesse Hunter had escaped from the chain gang, they immediately designated him as a suspect. So when you watch the movie Rosewood, they're looking for this man named Jesse Hunter. But Jesse Hunter wasn't the one that beat Fannie Taylor's Fannie because she lied. She just made up a fictitious black man. And because of her lie, you're going to have at least 6 African Americans who were killed, 2 white men are killed. The mob comes to Sylvester Carrier's house, and his mother is there, who is Aunt Sarah. She was played by Esther Roll in the movie. She's killed, okay, and he has a shotgun. He shoots and kills 2 white men who are deputized. He ends up being killed. Now in the movie, Sylvester Carrier, played by Don Cheadle, is not killed. Okay, he ends up riding off on a horse along with the fictitious character of Man, and they escape to a nearby town. All right. So when you actually, so we have to separate fact from fiction. And I'm not mad at John Singleton. I understand creative licenses and things like that, because if he had not created a fictitious character of Man, who was a hero, and he's a former World War I veteran, and he used military strategy, right, to help save them, and he knew how to use guns, he knew how to fight. Okay. If it hadn't been for that, and if it hadn't been for them having Sylvester survive, as opposed to being killed, oh, that movie probably wouldn't have even done $1 million at the box office. But because of the movie, and before that, you had a 1993 lawsuit, okay, and the survivors ended up getting about $2.1 million in reparations. A lot more people learned about Rosewood. Okay, we may talk about this some more next week. Watch the YouTube video I did, because I go deep into this history and separate the fact from fiction, and also I deal with a timeline of history leading up to that attack in 1923, because that's 2 years after the June 1st, 1921 attack on Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma also, all right? Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We have the 48-hour sale going on, and we have the online courses on demand on sale, my DVD lectures also. You can donate to the African History Network, paypal.me/the AHN show, paypal.me/the AHN show, or at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. If you don't have a PayPal account. Remember, we focus on educating, inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world. Right now, it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. Stay tuned for Pastor Mo. We'll talk to you next week. Peace. All right, let's kill the music. Thanks. All right, guys, we got to get out of here. How's everybody doing? Okay, we got to get out of here. Talk to y'all later. Peace.